All right, Magic Makers. Today I am going to talk about summer. And I know that some of you are like, summer, like, isn't it a little too early to be talking about summer? In fact, it's not a little too early to be talking about summer. And, you know, when people think about getting ready for summer, the first thing that's like, oh, I have to lose weight. And this came about probably like 3 years ago. I was teaching a class, and this woman's like, I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks. What do I need to do to tone it up? And that kind of thinking makes me nuts. So makes me absolutely crazy because that's what keeps us stuck, right? We think that if I do this like juice cleanse for 9 days, I'm going to look absolutely stunning and fabulous and, Instagram worthy. But here's the thing, right? That's not how it works, right? Especially if you've been dieting for a really long time, your body is just so like, girl, I ain't giving it to you. You've beaten me into submission and I'm not ready. I'm not going to do it. So let's really take a big step back and what does it really mean to get your body ready for summer? And it doesn't always necessarily mean losing weight. It could just mean by the time summer rolls around that, if you do have on summer weight, you might want to, you know, reduce it a little bit because you want to feel comfortable and confident in the clothes. In your clothes, we've got a little bit more skin showing, and we don't want to be hiding it underneath our winter parka. But also, summer is another time to come to Jesus with, what does my time look like when it comes to working out? What does my food look like when it comes to eating? Because I know for some people, when it comes to summer, they're increasing their food a little bit. When it comes to, or increasing their food, maybe it's increasing the alcohol a little bit. But maybe their exercise goes down because maybe they're traveling a lot more. This is probably one of the first summers in a while we haven't had a lot of restrictions. So, we're heading to the beach, we're wearing summer dresses, shorts, and we want to look good without having to strategically cover ourselves. And we want to shut down our inner critics. And we just want to feel comfortable. And it's definitely possible. So 5 mistakes that seem to trip most people up. And this is how we can start, taking the steps to avoid them so that we aren't disappointed. The first place that I see people is not starting early enough. So the first, like I said, I mentioned this woman, she comes to my class, and literally every time she comes to my class, it's like she's a few weeks out from a vacation or some type of big event. And the big thing is we can't always be sprinting to the finish line. That is the common mistake. We don't give ourselves enough time. We expect miracles overnight. We expect our bodies to be Amazon Prime. And if it doesn't arrive on Tuesday, you're pissed. And so in reality, it takes about 90 days for us to see a visible difference that makes people like sit up and notice. Okay. So if you think about it, in the first month, maybe your face gets a little slimmer. Maybe your belly gets a little bit smaller. By the second month, your friends and family start to notice. And by the third month, everybody in your neighborhood will notice that you've lost weight. And so I want you to think about, let's give yourself this like nice big timeline of how we're going to do it so that it's not this like struggle, this suffer fest, that it's like, okay, this is how I'm going to start. I'm going to start by, instead of reducing everything, I'm going to start by looking at what I'm doing. Can I add more vegetables? Like that's the first thing when I start working with a client is like, I'm like, what are you doing right now? Right? Instead of saying, no, 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 no. I'm like, what's happening right now? And for the most part, I see a lot of people aren't eating enough vegetables. So can I add more vegetables to my nutrition? And when I say vegetables, I'm not meaning onion and peppers. I'm talking some really, some green vegetables, some fibrous vegetables that are really going to have staying power for you. The other thing is create a workout schedule that you can easily stick with. Is it 2 days a week? Is it 3 days a week? Right? Because I see it all the time. People are like, I can go to the gym 7 days a week. And then I'm like, okay, so you don't have kids, you don't have a job, you don't have any other things in your life that might pop up to keep you from going to the gym. So I challenge you to come up with a schedule that feels doable, right? That, and map it out, put it on your calendar and treat it like an appointment that you can't break. So it's like every week I sit down on Sunday night and I'm like, what does the week hold for me? And some, for the most part, many of my clients were over 40. So like, we don't have a lot of crazy, like last minute things, but last minute things do pop up. But it's like, I know realistically, I know that this is my schedule. My schedule is Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Those are my opportunities to work out. And for the most part, those are the days that I stick with. But from time to time, something pops up and I'm not able to do that. So my goal is good, better, best, right? So a good week is 3 days, a better week is 4 days, the best week is 5 days. And I need to learn to be okay with that. And I also need to learn to be honor the season that I'm in. Maybe I have a month that I might be traveling a lot. And so I have to be okay with 3 days a week and say, you know what, it's just this season. It's not forever. And not beat myself up because I'm not hitting those 5 days a week. And then, making sure that my workouts are purposeful. And I've done several podcasts all about, what quote unquote counts as a workout. So go back to those. And if you want to really deep dive into what counts as a workout, the next place I go is we don't track our progress, right? What gets done gets measured. And I see so many women blindly like going into weight loss. And, it's this whole list of like, I saw that Sharon was doing keto, so that's what I'm going to do. And I saw that Susie over here, she was doing Whole30, and I saw this person was doing Heart 75. And it's like, let's just like flip that up. Like, let's just throw that away and let's start to figure out what is going to work for us and start by tracking progress. Now, I know for many people, they're like, oh, I didn't want to track my feet. It's hard. Yeah. But like, how do you know what's going on? Right now I'm having a conversation with a woman in a Facebook group and she's like, I'm doing keto and it's not working. And I was like, how do you know? She's like, well, I'm not losing weight. I'm like, so what are you eating? What do you mean? What do you mean? What am I eating? I'm like, I think that's pretty straightforward. What are you eating? And so many people don't know what they're eating. And so every morsel that goes into your mouth, write it down. And I'm talking measurement. Like I had a cup of this, a quarter cup of that, 5 ounces of this. And now in the beginning, it's a little tedious. And do you have to track forever? Absolutely not. I don't encourage that. But if you're looking at a change, we have to know what's going on. It's kind of like, I think about your car and you're like, my car needs gas. Well, how do you know your car needs gas? Because you look at the gauge and the gas gauge says, half a tank, quarter tank, whatever it says. Or if you're like me, my yellow light comes on and says, hey girl, time to get some gas. And that's when I know I need to get gas. But if we don't track what's going on, then how do you know, right? If I aim at nothing, I'm always going to hit it. And my favorite, I think Robin Sharma said this, but it wasn't me, but I think it was Robin Sharma, but if it doesn't, who cares? What gets measured gets managed. And so we got to start by saying, what is going on? So it's like, I got to look at how many days a week am I working out? What am I doing at those workouts, right? Am I just going to the gym and doing cardio? How much cardio am I doing? What am I eating? Like what's truly going into my mouth? And being able to say, okay, now I can be more strategic. And also when you come to work with a coach, we're going to ask you that. Like, I can't, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be like, okay, Sally, I just met you. I don't know you from Adam, but this is what you're going to do. Like run from those people. I'm like, okay, what's happening now? Because I'm sure there's things you're doing that are fabulous. I'm positive there are things you're doing that are fabulous. And I'm sure there are things that if we did a little small tweaks here and there, boom, you be off to the races. All right. So that leads into not having a plan, right? If I don't have a plan, and there's two parts of the plan. The first part of the plan is that the plan has to fit into my life, right? I've shared this story before that I had a client that she, before kids, would go to the gym Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. before work. And that was her thing. And she was very, very good at it. Then she had a kid. And then we all know sometimes kids don't sleep through the night. Sometimes they get sick. There's always something that is unpredictable when we have little ones. And she would get so frustrated that her schedule would be like blown up because she was like, I was up late with my daughter, and I couldn't go to the gym, 2 days, and now I'm pissed, I'm behind. And I was like, you know what? We have to like be able to have a plan and look at what's going on in our life. And decide like, okay, I have a kid now. So maybe it's not 5 days a week. So maybe I have to be okay with 3 days a week. Maybe I have to be okay with 2 days a week. Maybe I have to be okay with, you know what? I can't go to the gym anymore. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to work out at home. Right. That's one. Two, I have another client she's a tax attorney. CPA. And tax season, so pretty much from February through May, she's like out of pocket. So she had to come to grips with like, what does her schedule look like? What does her plan look like in that season of her life? And we all have those seasons in our life where things are just a little out of control, that we have to like learn to like ratchet back our assumptions. And so this is where I always say to people that with our plan, you have to be excited about the plan. I'm talking about, you have to be excited about the plan. It has to work for your life, right? And it has to be sustainable. And this is what I call with my reps formula, right? It's realistic. You're excited about it. You can make a plan in your life and it's sustainable for more than 30 days. Because I always look at these 30-day plans. I'm like, well, what happens on day 31? Right? When you work with me in a short-term way, I'm trying to set you up for success so that when we do work together I don't work with anyone in less than 12 weeks, but if we work together in a 12-week cycle, it's something that you can be like, you know what? I can repeat this 12-week cycle, or I know how to tweak it based on what's going on in my life. And then we have what I call, you're not pacing yourself. And I see it all the time. That, Rome wasn't built overnight. I live here in Boston, and when we were going through the Big Dig, I should Google how long ago the Big Dig was, but we went to the Big Dig and it was supposed to be like, literally a minute, but it was not a minute. And there was just like crazy traffic just to like create all of this infrastructure. And there was a sign as you were kind of entering kind of the heart of the Big Dig, and it said, Rome wasn't built in a day. If it was, we would have hired their contractor. And in my mind, I know that they were trying to be humorous, but at the same time, I thought that was like a big FU to everyone who was like stuck in all of the traffic. With that said, Rome was not built in a day. Your body is not built in a day. So it's built brick by brick, habit by habit, routine by routine, consistency by consistency, right? That's where we're going to make the changes. And I know that that's not sexy. When I told someone that it took me about 3 years to finally like settle everything down, what's going on in my body. She's like, that's too slow. And I'm like, but how long have you been trying to work on your weight loss? Because if you've been trying to work on your weight loss for more than 5 years, 3 years is not too slow, because it took me that long to unwind all the damage that I did trying to get to where I am today. And so now what I have is sustainable. There's not going to be this like, oh no, it's not working for me. It's like, this is fine. I'm finally in a sustainable, sane place. And it feels really good. So what I commonly see is like, we're not pacing ourselves. The woman I told you comes to my class 2 weeks before her event. And she's like, I'm going to like, beat my body into submission. Well, I'm going to ask you, when was the last time that worked? Right? You go on vacation, you like starve yourself to vacation, then you show up on vacation, and do you starve yourself on vacation, or you're like, game on, and, eating and drinking anything that is not nailed down? We have to try to find our pace. And I've been, kind of beating this drum recently, but we have to pick our pace and make peace with it. Like I've said, what's going on in your current life. And if I gave myself enough time, right, looking ahead, maybe I'm going on a week-long vacation in August. And if I start thinking about what's going to happen in springtime, that March, April time period, then I'm taking these nice, steady, small steps towards August. Maybe I have a, Christmas time vacation coming up. And so maybe I'm starting the march towards that vacation in June, so that I'm not like waking up on November 1st and being like, I got to sprint to my December 25th vacation. That sucks. Like that gets old. And, as so many people are like, it's so hard to motivate. Yeah, it's so hard to motivate when you're like, I got 6 weeks to try to cram in 6 months of, eating better, working out, sleeping better, where instead we say, okay, let's pick a pace, right? Like, how many of you can sprint forever? If you think about it, a sprinter goes 800 meters and that's it. That's it. So if we think about it as a marathon, I have the beginning of the marathon pace, then I have the middle of the marathon pace, then I have the end of the marathon pace. So if we pick what our beginning is, I don't have to try to sprint that full 26 miles because that get old. That get old fast. And it's challenging and it's really easy to want to throw in the towel because I'm, pressing that restriction button so hard and, everything I look at, I want. I remember when I was competing and I was probably about 2 weeks out from show. And this is when it's, the most restrictive. And I was in Marshall's and this poor woman, she didn't even know that I was like feeling like this towards her. So for you stranger out there, I apologize. And I was like, in Marshall's and this woman was eating an apple. And I was like, oh my God, I could totally take this woman. I wanted that apple so badly. And at the time I couldn't have any apples unless I worked out. And I was like, oh my God, I want that apple so bad. And so that's totally not pacing myself, right? That I was just like crazy for flipping apple. All right. So the last piece here is not focusing on the wrong things. And I call this majoring in the minors, right? So what is majoring in the minors? So I had a client ask me, she's like, I was like, oh, let's see if we can let's beef up your shakes and see if we can get a little bit more some more vegetables into you. So why don't you toss in some so why don't you toss in some vegetables into your shake? And she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, and I'm like, and I was just kind of brainstorming off the top of my head. And I was like, oh, why don't you think about adding in some, spinach or kale or zucchini. And she's like, oh, well, I heard that you shouldn't eat spinach raw. It's not healthy. And I was like, huh. And I was like, I never heard that. And so, and I was like, you know what, here's the thing. I look at that as I look at that as a pebble, right? So if you think about life, right? We have, if we had a cylinder, right? So imagine we have this glass cylinder. And then we take these big rocks and we put it into the glass cylinder. Now that glass cylinder starts to get really full, right? So then we start to put in some pebbles, right? The little smaller pebbles, put the small pebbles in. Again, it's getting fuller. And then we put in water, right? So now we filled our container. When I put in the big rocks, the big things that are just really the dial movers, I fill my container. And if I think about my container as my body, as my health, I'm really going to focus on those big rocks. So the big rocks is nutrition, right? We want 80% of our nutrition to be healthy. And that's going to come from anything that you can grow. You can pluck it. It swims, it runs on the ground. That is great nutrition. Am I going to split hairs if you're eating cooked spinach versus not cooked spinach? No, it's at the end of the day, that's too much thinking, right? It's hard enough for me to get a lot of women to eat vegetables. So I'm not going to split hairs over if things are cooked or not cooked. The raw community will come at me and be like, nothing should be cooked over whatever temperature raw people cook. I just want you to get in 80% quality food. Right. And when I say quality based on what you can afford. The second rock is exercise. I want you to think about, at minimum 2 days, your strength training, because as a woman over 40, we are fighting the natural progression that our muscles start to disintegrate. We're fighting that. All right. It is just a natural part of aging. But with strength training, we want to make sure that by the time we're 80, we're still able to pick up a gallon of milk out of the refrigerator. We're still able to push ourselves off of the toilet, right? So the third big rock is sleep. I want to make sure that you are sleeping. And that means we're getting at least 7 hours of sleep. And for many of you, that is a challenge. And I get that, hormones, just maybe your partner isn't sleeping well. So I always just say people that, we also have our schedules. We're running, 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 and we think that we're going to like run until we collapse. And some of you can do that, rock on with your bad self, and some of you can't. Some of us need that like decharge, like that unwind time. And so if you're struggling with sleep, I want you to think about, what does your bedtime ritual look like? I was having a conversation with the women in my metabolic recharge program, and one of them is what I call revenge bedtime, right? And so what has been dubbed revenge bedtime is that you work so hard during the day that you feel like you stay up later because this is your only time that you get to do whatever the hell you want to do, right? It's a time that your kids are in bed. It's a time that a boss isn't telling you what to do. Maybe you work late, maybe you're working from home, and it's the only time you can kind of like unplug from the matrix and do whatever you want to do. But that eats into your morning time. So it's like, if I'm staying up, I have a couple clients that stay up, till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, God love you. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, I would be delirious. But they're staying up that late, and then it's compromising them on the backside because they, one, have jobs that they have to be at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, or they've telling themselves that they really want to work out in the morning, but because they're staying up so late, they're not able to get back up in the morning. So really start to think about, like, do you have that revenge bedtime? And let's talk about that. The other rock is stress. So many of us are, running like crazy. We're stressed to the max. We're worried about, finding the perfect food and the perfect this and the perfect that. Girlfriend, there's no perfect. Perfect ain't coming, right? If perfect was there, I would be talking about more about perfection on this podcast than I ever do. And that's why I always say the good, better, best. That's what really helped me break myself of that perfection. That was one of my like biggest rocks that I had to put in my container, was breaking free of that, breaking free of that oh my gosh, I can speak, breaking free of the perfection and really focusing on what I call good, better, best, right? What feels good, what's better, and what's best, and being okay with that and giving myself credit that I was able to hit good versus I didn't get 120% and didn't get a gold star. And the last piece was my mindset. I guess I want to say this is like a boulder for a lot of people, is working that mindset of letting go of the comparison of what you could do when you were in your 20s and your 30s, letting go of the comparison of what Sally or Jimmy is able to do compared to what you're able to do, and really focusing on like, what can I be consistent with? Right? It's not about, what can I do all the time? It's like, I look at health and fitness as this like matrix, right? It's like always trying to make sure that we're putting all the pieces together so that we're, sometimes the focus is the nutrition. Sometimes the focus is our mindset. Sometimes the focus is our habits. Sometimes the focus is our exercise. And what I find with a lot of my clients, they're really good with the exercise. They're fabulous with the exercise, but the other three, not so much, right? So we really have to start to say, what are the areas that are, not need a little bit more shoring up. And finally, this is a piece that goes by the wayside. And I've had several podcasts about self-care. Self-care isn't about manicures and pedicures, right? For me, self-care is going for a nice walk, right? That is my unplug time. I listen to a podcast and I listen to it on a device that I can't make a phone call. I can't get a text. It's just me out and about. Spending time with people that make you happy, reading a good book, right? Creating a done list. Like, we have this ever running to-do list. What if we started creating a done list so that we can look back and be like, okay, even though I feel like I'm not getting stuff done, look at me, I am getting stuff done. All right. So that's the 5 things that seem to be keeping people from actually hitting their goals this summer. It was like, when we start focusing on the wrong things. And sure, it could be amazing to feel like, we go to the gym and it feels amazing, but if you're not seeing visible results, we gotta look at something, right? If I keep doing the same thing and I'm not getting results, I have to look at, is my process broken? And here's where, like, we got to look at, like, your diet should be the main focus of your efforts. That 80% of your results are going to come from your nutrition. And so when I do that, that means cleaning up, am I eating too many processed foods, things that are coming out of a package? Um, am I eating too many things that contain added sugars? Am I not eating enough protein? Am I not eating enough vegetables? Right. So I want to focus on, am I not getting enough water? So I want to focus in on what can I add? So the first two things I always make people add: check your water, check your vegetables, check your protein. Those are your three things. Those are big dial movers for you. And it's not about going to the gym every day and being there for 4 million hours a day. It's like, really, how can I um, do all this and not feel like I need to beat my body into submission? Because these 5 mistakes, they can slow down your progress. And that's what makes so many of you quit, because you've lost all hope, because you're putting in all this effort and you're not seeing any results on the backside. In reality, it's these unintentional errors that will keep tripping you up. So if you want to keep avoiding these summer mistakes, focus in on what I've talked about. And, I don't want you to feel like you have to write all of this down. I've created a little handout for you. It's 5 keys to summer fitness. So all you have to do is just download this, and you can read it on your own. And then, feel free to figure out which ones did you want to focus on, right? Because we can't focus on everything. Where are the things that you feel that you need to focus on? And maybe it's one of the rocks that you're missing, that you're like, what, really need to focus on my nutrition. My nutrition's crap. Or I really need to focus on giving myself a longer runway. Whatever it is, there's still time, right? There's still time to get yourself going. You can start now. You can start tracking your progress, start creating a plan, and you can start focusing on things that are really going to move your dial. And so if you need any help or support, do me a favor, reach out to me. I am always open to giving you a tip or two. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Barnes Jefferson on Facebook. All right, that's all I got for you this day. Feel free, again, I'm going to put it in the show notes for you to grab the 5 summer mistakes, so that you can really crush this. All right, ladies, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time.